His city glittered like spilled diamonds against the night sky, cold and sharp from a distance. Inside the soaring glass penthouse of Blackline Corporation's CEO, Frederick Dane, warmth and wine flowed freely among the elite. Crystal chandeliers bathed the marble-floored space in golden light as tuxedos and gowns glided across the room. Power, masked as charm, dripped from every interaction. Men discussed mergers like football matches. Women exchanged glances laced with calculation. Among them, Elena Vaughn moved like a blade dot at 34. Elena was already head of Blackline's legal division, a title she wore like armor. Her dark hair was coiled into a sleek twist, her emerald satin dress sculpting her tall figure into something statuesque. She wasn't there to flirt or toast. She was there to confirm what her instincts had whispered for months. Something inside Blackline was bleeding money. And someone was covering it up near the balcony. Darren Holt, the company's CFO, stood, half-lit by city lights. His eyes were rimmed with exhaustion, his voice terse when Elena approached. "Any word from the press?" she asked under her breath. "They know nothing, but the numbers don't lie." He glanced around. "The quarterly reports, they've been manipulated. And whoever did it was good." Elena narrowed her eyes. "How good?" "No audit trail, no alerts triggered." He looked at her grimly. "But I found something." They left the party 20 minutes apart, each in separate cars, each careful not to be followed. That night, Elena returned to her apartment in Midtown and opened her encrypted server. The documents Darren sent her were buried under layers of password protection. Once cracked open, the truth was uglier than she'd feared. Multiple accounts, routed through offshore banks, all signed off with a digital fingerprint. She recognized the alias, ZVRA username, once used by Zachary Verne, Blackline's former VP of strategy. A man they believed was dead. Zachary had vanished 2 years earlier after a failed acquisition tanked the company's stock. His body was never found, only his blood-stained watch beside a bridge. It had been ruled a suicide. Elena hadn't believed it then. Now, she had proof he was not only alive, but siphoning millions from under their noses. She backed up every file to a flash drive and slid it into a locket chain around her neck. Just as she locked her terminal, the lights in her apartment flickered. She froze. Outside, a black SUV idled across the street. The windows were tinted, the engine too quiet. Elena closed the blinds, locked the door, and checked her Glock 19 under the coffee table drawer. If Zachary was alive, he wouldn't take kindly to exposure. The next morning, Darren was dead. His body was found in his condo bathtub, wrists slit, a suicide note typed but unsigned. Elena's hands trembled as she read the police report. The wounds were shallow. The angle didn't match self-infliction. The cops dismissed it as a stressed exec's breakdown. Elena knew it was a silencing. She attended the funeral in black, silent, as reporters whispered theories outside the gate. Frederick Dane stood at the podium, mourning his most trusted financial mind, but there was no grief in his eyes. Elena watched his clenched jaw and wondered, had Frederick known about the embezzlement? Or worse, had he orchestrated it? A week later, she booked a private meeting with a journalist she trusted, Benjamin Carr, editor at the Fifth Ledger, a rogue finance blog known for exposing corporate rot. They met in a parking garage beneath an abandoned mall. Carr, mid-40s, balding with a silver beard, looked her over with caution. "You're risking your life talking to me," he said, taking the flash drive from her gloved hand. "Darren's already dead. I'm next." He nodded slowly, then opened his laptop and scanned the files. "Holy shit. This is $100 million laundering scheme." She pointed to the folders. "That signature there? ZVR Zachary Verne. He's dead." "No, he staged it." Carr whistled under his breath. You realize publishing this will crash Blackline overnight. That's the point. But 2 nights before the story was set to drop, Carr's blog went offline. His social accounts disappeared. His phone went straight to voicemail. When Elena visited his office, it had been emptied. No trace remained. Panicked, she returned home to find her apartment ransacked. Her server was gone, furniture overturned. Even the air felt violated. She reached for her emergency satchel. Under the floorboard, a burner phone, extra cash, and a second drive copy. Only then did she notice the photo on her coffee table. It hadn't been there before. Printed still from a street camera her end. Carr in the parking garage. Below it, handwritten in red ink, "Stop, or you'll join him." That night, she didn't sleep. She booked a motel under a false name and used the burner phone to call the only person she had left, Eden Ross, an ex-detective, turned pie, and her ex-fiancé. Their past was complicated, but if anyone could trace a ghost, it was him. "You look like hell," Aiden said when they met at a diner outside city limits. He was still broad-shouldered, still wore that tired cynicism like a jacket. She told him everything over cold coffee and soggy eggs. He listened without interrupting. "You think Zachary's alive," he finally said. "I know he is." "And you think Dane's in on it?" She nodded. "Or he's being played." Aiden tapped his fingers. "All right, let's play back." Over the next week, they dug deeper. Aiden traced the IP signatures from the flash drive. Some bounced through Iceland, others from inside the city's financial district. Meanwhile, Elena traced shell companies linked to Blackline's holdings, one of which had a board member named Vern Holdings LLC. Buried in that LLC's paperwork was an address. A luxury condo downtown. They staked it out for 2 nights. On the 3rd, just past midnight, someone entered. Zachary Vern. Older, bearded, alive. Elena couldn't breathe. They followed him to a private lounge downtown. Aiden lifted prints from a glass. Back at the lab, they matched. It was him. Zachary had faked his death, fled, and now returned under a new identity, presumably to bleed. Blackline Drive for some greater vendetta. Aiden posed as a tech buyer and scheduled a meeting. Elena stayed behind, listening via earpiece. But halfway through the meeting, Aiden whispered, "He knows." The earpiece cut out. Elena's heart pounded as she rushed to the location. Aiden was gone. The bar staff said he left 10 minutes earlier alone. She called his phone, no answer. She knew what came next. She was out of time. She went straight to Frederick Dane's estate, storming past security. "You knew he was alive?" She screamed. Dane stared at her from behind his desk. "Who?" "Zachary Vern." A long pause. "I knew he might be," Dane said carefully. "But I had no proof, and no reason to chase ghosts." "You're lying. You're laundering money with him." His face hardened. "You don't know what you're talking about. I have the files. If anything happens to Aiden, you'll do what, exactly?" He interrupted, voice cold. "You'll go to the cops? The ones we sponsor? The DA who dines at my table?" Elena realized then he was in deeper than she imagined. Frederick leaned forward. "You think you've uncovered something rare. But this is how the world works, Miss Vaughn. Money flows. People drown." She stormed out, but the game had shifted. There was no legal path left. She had to go public. The next morning, she walked into the Channel 9 newsroom with the files and demanded airtime. Live. They hesitated until she showed them everything. By noon, the segment aired. She exposed Blackline's laundering. She revealed Zachary's faked death. She named names. It went viral in minutes. The fallout was catastrophic. Stock crashed. Dane was arrested. International warrants issued for Zachary. Carr was found alive, gagged in a warehouse. Aiden returned with bruised ribs but breathing. Elena was called a hero. But 2 weeks later, at home, she opened a letter slid under her door. Inside was a single sheet of paper. We let you win the battle, but you've started a war. At the bottom, a fresh signature :z.vr. and a USB drive. Elena plugged it into a secured laptop. Hesitating. Inside were hundreds of files, dozens of companies. Blackline was only the beginning. She stared at the screen. As realization dawned, she hadn't ended the corruption. She'd exposed only the first layer. The Crimson Ledger was much deeper. And now she was part of it.